Hello and welcome back to today's episode of It's Time. This is going to be another one of those short and sweet episodes where we just wanted to lay the groundwork for a deeper dive that we'll do. But this is around the power and the science and why sunlight is so mission critical for our health and our energy and our longevity, and specifically sunlight without sunblock for 10 to 15 minutes a day. And then there are some environments where you just can't get 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight, whether it's because you're working a night shift or you're in a climate where this is changing as it's the darker months of the year. But the sunlight and the effect of sunlight is so mission critical that we want to make sure we lay out the why, and then we'll talk about other ways to access that benefit or amplify that benefit, like all of the red light technologies that we're hearing so much about in longevity and the health space. So with that, I'll just dive right in. It kind of boils down to this very simple idea about sunlight being kind of like the powerhouse catalyst for our mitochondria. And I won't go too deep in the science, especially without my brilliant partner, Dr. Jen, with me. But we kind of remember from our high school biology that the mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. They generate most of our cell's energy supply with ATP, adenosine triphosphate. I can barely say the words, but we've heard ATP, we've heard mitochondria. And the idea to take away here is that sunlight is this fuel, this catalyst to power up mitochondria and refuel and recharge. So they essentially convert the nutrients that we take in from our food. Mitochondria does this and converts it into a usable form of energy for our cells. So it's important that we have healthy mitochondria, that we recharge them, that we replenish their energy source, and sunlight is a way for us to do that. Inside the mitochondria, the ATP, one of the key enzymes, is photosensitive. And so that means that the sunlight from the red and the near infrared light, it's like 600 to 900 on the band, that sunlight penetrates the skin and stimulates this enzyme. So the enzyme gets to work. So there's more efficient electron flow, there's more ATP, and there's less cellular fatigue. And it's cellular fatigue that we always hear about, which is the aging challenge, is that we just start to lose that cellular energy load. So that sunlight, that light wave, is a charger of the ATP and electron flow into the ATP. So that's number one. And then nitric oxide gets released. So sunlight exposure gets nitric oxide released from your internal systems, which basically means you can have better blood flow. Vasodilation is something you hear Dr. Jen talking a lot about, how important that is for us. So you have better blood flow, better oxygen transport within your cell structure, and better nutrient delivery to your tissue. So releasing nitric oxide is a big kicker, and sunlight is the catalyst for that kicker. So that's important. The third reason, and we hear a lot about this, and I think there's a lot of these health span influencers talking about circadian rhythm and setting your circadian rhythm by getting outside in the morning. The reason for that really is, though, that the blue light, this morning sunlight, generates blue light. So blue light hits something called our melanospin receptors. I really wish Dr. Jen was here to help me pronounce these words. And that those receptors are in our eyes. So that's why some of the influencers will say, you can't be looking through the window or don't have on sunglasses. It's because you have these receptors in your eyes. And when that blue light gets in, it signals to the brain that it's time to reset your body clock. So that's the idea of trying to get that little dose of sunlight in the morning, so your circadian rhythm is rebalanced for its daytime and its nighttime. So the SCN regulates your mitochondrial biogenesis, which means making new mitochondria, and kind of syncs energy demand with daylight. So getting daylight in the morning, just 5 to 10 minutes of it, helps you kick off the energy in the day. Mitochondria are kind of time aligned to work when they're awake. And so that's, again, that catalyst to say, hey, I'm awake now. Let's get some energy going. It's time to go. So if you don't have natural light, or you have too much artificial light at night, the mitochondrial signaling is kind of kicked off. So there's a lot of this conversation we'll come across, which is like, you should dim your lights at night, or you should put red lights in so that you don't have blue lights telling your body to be awake. And that's where that's coming from. It's like your mitochondria needs to know it's time to recharge or it's time to go to work, and it can't just be on all the time, or there's no kind of refuel opportunity. So getting out in the morning is say, let's get to work, and then trying to dim the lights in your end of day flow is saying it's time to go to sleep. The fourth reason why sunlight exposure without sunblock is important is to get the vitamin D and the hormonal support that those wavelengths and those sun rays generate. So UVB light stimulates vitamin D production. And that kind of indirectly supports, again, this mitochondrial function by generating your calcium balance, which is what is needed also in the mitochondrial signaling. It helps kind of with hormone regulation, especially when you're trying to navigate in our postmenopause hormone fluctuations and hormone therapies. Having sunlight to help with that hormone regulation is an amplification of that benefit. It also does impact your immune system regulation, reducing inflammation. So less stress on mitochondria. Inflammation is more stress on mitochondria. So when you reduce it, it's less stress on the mitochondria. The fifth kind of idea here is that red and infrared light are repair mechanisms. So the longer wavelengths in the morning and in the evening sunlight with infrared light will penetrate more deeply into tissues. And, when we talk about using things like red light masks for our face, or I need to use it more for my neck, but and also for healing and recovery, like the red light canopies that you can put over for healing and recovery. This is why it's these longer wavelengths that get in and help reduce mitochondrial oxidative stress. They increase the ATP synthesis and the efficiency, and they trigger the biogenesis or the remaking of mitochondria, which is really cool. So that's why this red light technology is getting a lot of cognizance in our health span conversations. Is it's a mimic of what sunlight is doing, because there are the downsides of sunlight, which we know about, and why we wear sunblock. And so sitting out for hours at a time with the full impact of the sunlight is a challenge for other reasons. But being able to get that red and infrared light for an extended period of time is a benefit. So that's kind of the basic framework for why it's important to get sunlight and important to get it at least many doses of it without sunblock. One thing that was really interesting in a lot of the research behind this is a lot of these benefits for the healing and repair side of sunlight can happen through your clothes. So it's not like you have to be like walking around fully skin exposed to get these benefits. These are infrared lights, so they get in through your clothes and they can get in and help cellular repairs. One of the studies that when I first was looking into this that was so interesting to me was a doctor who was very active in the COVID space in 2020, and he was just, in this conundrum with how to help all the patients. And I'll have to go back and look for our show notes if it was in New York or LA, but he was in the super dense metro. All the patients who were coming in and being on the ventilators, and they were just stuck in these dark rooms. There was no recovery in sight. And so he started to experiment, because he had studied sunlight, with getting them close to windows. And then he took it the next step and started to experiment with actually pulling them out of the hospital rooms and into the outdoor settings. And his findings were that people immediately started to improve, like within a day, started to improve just with being exposed to sunlight. And so again, I will get this doctor's research and name for our show notes, but he took that work to a full degree of working with various types of patients outside of the COVID time in our moment of the respiratory challenges, and working with patients who were kind of like at last resort, and setting their hospital beds up outside so they were getting just sunlight. I think one of the examples he gave was a boy who was terminal cancer. Maybe he was like a 14 or 15-year-old boy. And this was a catalyst for his thought experiments on this. And then his practice was just asking for his last few days to be outside. He was like, I can't be inside anymore. And he recovered in a couple of days' time, and all of his metrics started to turn around. And he recovered through the sunlight. And so they started to treat him outside in the sunlight. At least in this one example, this boy survived and is still thriving. So it's more to say that sunlight has healing effects, as well as, just our day-to-day energetic effects, and to give yourself time to sit outside in the sun. Think of it as therapeutic. Think of it as self-care. And it doesn't have to be all day long, but just even 10 minutes to sit outside in the sun. And of course, we think there are huge benefits to walking out in the sun and nature, and lots of great studies around the benefits of just being in full 360 of nature. But if you can't get that to a certain day, just to go outside with a cup of tea and feel the sun for 5 minutes, know that you're doing something healthy at the same time. This is our short and sweet episode on how important sunlight is, especially as we start to transition out of summer and we get more into the fall and the winter months. It's important to still go out and get it. It's also a mood enhancer. It is a mood and a neurotransmitter. So sunlight boosts your serotonin. It helps you regulate dopamine and your endorphins. That improves your moods. So when we get into the deep dive episode, we're going to go through benefit by benefit and say, if you want this benefit, how much sunlight? Or if you can't get the sunlight that you need, how do you amplify, or how do you augment it and make it something practical? But for today, just celebrate your outdoor time. Go get your sunlight. Get your friends and family out in the sunlight. and soak up the sun. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for spending your time with us here today. If you liked what you heard and you got some tips on how to live better right now and for the long haul, please help us reach more midlife women. Please share and rate and like this show. And we can't wait to continue the dialogue with you on our next episode. Until then, thank you. It's time.